who is the latest to the residential cruising bandwagon? Fabled Voyages. So in this video today, I'm going to have a look at Fabled Voyages and tell you what I think of them. So welcome to Travel with Zan. So who are Fabled Voyages? So they are the latest residential cruising option, giving the option to live on a cruise ship and travel the world. They position themselves as a more community-driven option, and they're not backed by private equity or by outside investors. So it's more of a crowdfunding from the people that are going to live on there. So that's not a lot different to Villa Vie, I don't feel. And one of the things that they do say a lot on their website is that transparency is one of their big things. And I think that's probably something they've taken from the whole Villa Vie venture, was that people felt that it wasn't very transparent. So that's good if that's the case. So what are the options? So they are doing a 15-year, 10-year and a 5-year option, as well as a couple of other things that I'll discuss later. So they haven't got a ship yet. So this is just an idea at this point in time. So obviously that is something to consider if you're going to buy into it. There have been, quite a number of these ventures that have come up. Villa Vie is the only one that's actually ended up with a ship that sailed. So this does worry me. It sort of reminds me a bit of life at sea and in these other ventures that never happened, and people lost a lot of money from them. So this does worry me that they're asking for quite a large number of people to buy into it as well. So let's have a look more. They are at the pre-ship stage. So they hope for a vessel in the 70,000 to 120,000 gross tonnage range, and about 800 to 1,100 feet long, and able to support 1,800 to 2,400 residents. They do say that they have got a ship in mind that is sailing at the moment, but, who knows if that's true? I guess that's the thing that worries me. So they want to reach 80% capacity before they will finalize the ship, and then they will spend some time refurbishing it and doing repairs before it sets sail. So what are the options that they do? So the residency options are 15 years, 10 years and 5 years. This is very like Villa Vie. You can decorate your own cabin, and it also gives you decision rights into the company, the itinerary, what they're doing with the ship. There's also monthly rentals, all inclusive, so they intend to deliver a true home at sea with many of the amenities included, including housekeeping, laundry, Wi-Fi, medical services, so doctor, pharmacy, mental health and dental, community spaces, a library, theatre and fitness, and dining option. The dental is the one that particularly interested me. That's something that's not offered on Villa Vie, and I'm not even sure if that's often on the world, and to be able to get dental work and regular checkups done without having to find a land-based one if you're like a long way away from home, to me is a great bonus, as long as the dentist's nice. They also plan to allow pets, which includes both dogs and cats. So I think that maybe they've seen how popular the cat option was on Villa Vie, and that those spots for cats sold out very quickly. And, there's been lots of comments in the videos about how that people would like dogs to be allowed as well. So it'd be interesting to see how many they can have. I don't know if the reason Villa Vie only has certain numbers, there must be probably legalities around the number of animals that they can have on the ship. So that will be an interesting one to look at. So what are my initial thoughts? So looking at the website, I thought it was quite wordy to start with. It just reminded me very much of the other options that have been around Villa Vie, and also the ones that failed, like Life at Sea. And I think the 80% occupancy, that's the thing that really worries me. Villa Vie's been sailing for a year today on the 1st of October. So, and they're nowhere near 80% occupancy. And this is going to be a larger ship. So I really don't know how they're going to get 80% occupancy unless, they were selling a lot cheaper, which I will go through the numbers in a moment, but they're not. So I really don't know where they're going to get these people to fill the ship so that they can even purchase one if they're not purchasing one until that point. So that's probably the thing that worries me the most about it. Otherwise, it sounds, fairly similar to options that are already available. According to their press release, their Fabled Voyages was founded with a vision to transform the way people experience long-term travel. And they do mention the cats and dogs thing quite prominently in their press releases, so it's obviously the big selling point that they feel is important. The CEO and founder of the company is Madison Miller, and I haven't been able to find out anything about her, so if anyone knows who Madison Miller is, then please let me know in the comments below. That would be great. And while you're down there, if you could like and subscribe, that would be awesome. It costs you nothing to subscribe, but it really helps my channel grow. I'm really trying to get my subscriber numbers up, so that would just be awesome if you could do that for me. Thanks. And anyway, so back to the ship and the itinerary. So as I say, we don't know what the ship is going to be. They're looking at a sort of mid-size ship and up to 2,400 people compared to Odyssey's 970. And the size of the ship, they're looking at a gross tonnage of 70 to 120,000. Odyssey's only 24,334. So they're actually looking quite a larger ship than Odyssey. I think they're probably doing that because they're wanting, a larger community so that, it doesn't get quite so clicky. But as I say, I don't know how they're going to get the numbers. And also one of the plus points for me about the Odyssey and Villa Vie was the size of the ship. Smaller ships can dock in more places. The ship might have to tender into some of those smaller ports. And, I just like smaller ships personally. But, not everybody does. So it is a good option as something different to Villa Vie for those that want a larger ship. They say they chose this size to strike the perfect balance. It allows us to offer world-class amenities, more spacious accommodations, multiple dining options and health services, whilst keeping the onboard community small enough to feel personal. So 2,000 to 2,500 passenger capacity ensures guests enjoy comfort, community and privacy all in one encompassing environment. So that's how they put it. So yeah, I think it's a reasonable size. I've certainly sailed on ships similar size. I think Luminosa is a similar size, which I just spent a month on traveling on a Trans-Pacific, and that was it was a fine size for that period of time. So that I think probably could be quite a good size ship for living on. So this is going to be 100% funded by people buying cabins. So the deposits are fully refundable in the first 30 days and then 90% after that. And 50% of the full price is payable once full funding is finalised. And then the other 50% due 120 days before sailing. All funds are held in an escrow account. So that is, one little thing that make you feel a bit more secure about getting your money back. And they do say that ongoing $50,000 to $250,000 US a month will be held in a maintenance account. So that's also quite good because that is one of the issues is, anything big that comes up, especially with older ships. I mean, I don't know how old this ship is going to be. It's obviously still sailing now. But, there is maintenance to be done. And if these things are, costly, how is that going to be covered? And so therefore will the ship keep being able to sail? So the living options. So ownership is the main option, so the same as Villa Vie, and these are broken down to 5, 10 and 15 years. So there's also a 1-year rate and a monthly rate. So the monthly ranges from 7,500 to 15,000 a month, and the 1-year rate ranges from 88,000 to 185,000. So that's 7,333 to 15,400 per month. Entertainment, it sounds very similar to Villa Vie, mix of community entertainment, and a lot of this would be run by residents, I imagine. So there's things like talks, karaoke, trivia, crafts, fitness classes, games area, putting green, skating, and they also mentioned a golf simulator, which was obviously one of those big things that Villa Vie promised and still hasn't got, that people keep going on about it not being there. It's not something I probably would use, so I really don't care, but yeah, it's funny that they mentioned a golf simulator as well. And they also mentioned that there'll be cultural special events for the country and regions that they're in, ambassadors, cultural and educational speakers, cinema and theatre, guest speakers, musicians and acts and more. So I imagine there will be an entertainment person on board, the same as there is on Villa Vie. So I think that the entertainment side of things will probably be pretty similar. I'd hope that maybe they could bring more people on if there's, more people on the ship and therefore more money, that they might be able to bring more acts on at different ports, because that's something I don't think Villa Vie's, they have done, but I don't think they've done a lot. And that would obviously, change up the entertainment on segments. So what is included? So residential is included the room service, set menu, standard toiletries, Wi-Fi, smart TV, coffee maker or kettle, which is different to a lot of ships, laundromat, twice weekly housekeeping, laundry services, and rental services to help you rent out your cabin, and initial room customizations and enhancements. So it sounds very similar to Villa Vie there. And specialty things, so obviously things that you have to pay more for. They're planning to do additional housekeeping, post-move-in room customizations and enhancements, dry cleaning services, and shared dedicated butler services. So the butler thing is something different. I don't think they offer dry cleaning on board Villa Vie either. For dining, there's going to be a main dining hall for breakfast and dinner, well-view buffet for breakfast, lunch and dinner, also pizza, salads, soups and sandwiches, and the grill with burgers and chicken and fries and things. So that sounds very similar to Villa Vie. They're also planning a range of specialty dining options, so European, Asian, specialty meat and seafood, pub food, also home-style self-cooking, so with available ingredients from the kitchen. So this, I would be interested to see if they manage this. This was something Villa Vie wanted to do, to have, kitchen areas. I know this is highly regulated, and I think that's why Villa Vie didn't end up doing it. So this one, I'd be really interested to see if they managed to do that. The facilities, there's going to be a library, hobby and art space, gathering spaces for small groups, gardening area. So that would be an interesting one, gardening area. Central theatre for plays, speakers host events and movies, community spaces, arcade, mini theatre area, billiards, and open office workspace. So that sounds fairly typical. And specialty services, they are looking at putting in private offices. So this one interests me. These sold out on Villa Vie very, very quickly. So I'm wondering if they're taking that into account and will be putting in larger amount of private office spaces. So that one could be interesting to see what they do with that. And storage units, because this was something I think Villa Vie kind of said they'd have at the beginning, that you'd be able to store some stuff, and that never happened. And obviously cabins are small, and that is, one of the downsides of living on a cruise ship of any kind, is that the cabins are small and there's not a lot of storage. I know in Villa Vie, like a lot of people bought, like those bed risers, so that, they could fit more under the bed. And, there is quite a lot of storage room underneath the bed. But yeah, so that storage areas sounds interesting. A cigar, pipe and bourbon rum bar. Personally, I hate any ship that allows smoking indoors. It does, tend to permeate through the ship. That was one thing I found recently on the transatlantic, because in Australia, for people in the US, we don't have any smoking allowed inside, like the casino or anywhere inside the ship. So I did find that hard being, on a US sailing, and the fact that the casino was smoking, and like the smell just sort of starts permeating everywhere. And that was, only after like a month of it. And also there'd be shops, so clothing, everyday needs, convenience store, liquor and tobacco, and specialties. So I think that's fairly normal on a ship, and I'm pretty sure Villa Vie has some kind of shop on there. Also, you are going to be in ports all the time, so I don't think the shopping needs probably, that high. Health and wellness, so included a spa and sauna, outdoor pools, jacuzzi, extensive gym, fitness aerobic classes, and a personal trainer. So that's the same as Villa Vie. And specialty services, massage and beauty treatments, beauty salon and nail salon. I think that's also available on Villa Vie. And there will be a customer service department, IT department, and a travel agency trip planning department. I don't know if this is going to be on board or something shoreside. I know Villa Vie were talking about this at the beginning, and there was like a company that was going to do excursions. I don't know if that took off, like if people used it. I think people prefer to do their own thing or band together with other residents and do their own things. It's obviously a lot cheaper to do it yourself. And I think, you know, when you're traveling long term, it's not like going on a 2-week cruise where, you know, spending a bit of money on cruise shore excursions, you know, isn't such a big deal. Not that I do that. I tend to always do everything myself unless it's something I can't get to, unless I do it with the ship or I don't have enough time to. But yeah, so that would be interesting to see how that's done and how, you know, popular that is if they do it. And the other thing, there's real estate on board. I don't really know what that is. I'm assuming that's like if you're wanting to rent out your cabin. I'm not really sure. And then specialty services. Okay, veterinary services. So that one was very interesting because that was one of the things that when I talked about Villa Vie in my initial video where I discussed Villa Vie, I'll link that up above and down in the description. The idea of being able to bring my cat, who you might have seen in the background earlier, you know, that was something that I really liked the idea of. But then I started thinking about it and thought, well, you know, what would you do if your animal got sick? You know, like, there's no vets. You probably can't take them off in ports because, you know, they wouldn't have, you know, the correct health. Yeah, because a lot of places have, you know, quarantine or, you know, don't allow animals in. So that was really worried me. So veterinary services, that sounds like a great thing to me and a big difference. So maybe that was something that they, you know, saw from people talking about Villa Vie. And also pet grooming services and pet sitting services. Which would be good for, you know, dog owners, like, you know, if you're going off on, you know, a day or overnight or, you know, like a few days trip somewhere from the ship, then, you know, having pet sitting services would be awesome. And medical, so it's not just emergency care, they say. So they obviously have been listening to people being concerned about the medical side of it. And there is going to be primary care physicians, nurses, mental health services, physical therapists, dietitian, and dentist stroke hygienists. And they're planning specialist neurology, cardiovascular, psychologist, and chiropractic and acupuncturist. So I'd be very interested to see what comes out with the medical. Obviously, that's something that people have been worried about, and people having to come, you know, go back home. They say that the appointments have a copay but not require insurance but medications and immunizations and advanced services may have additional costs. So I wonder how this will work. I mean, I don't think you could do it without insurance. I'm not really sure about that. Maybe they're talking about American insurance. I'm not really sure. But, you know, I wouldn't travel anywhere without medical insurance. So, you know, like without travel insurance. So that's, yeah, I don't know. I don't really quite understand what they're meaning there. So onto the cabins and what they offer and the costs. So as I said, there's a 15-year option, which is like similar to Villa Vie, and you can decorate and modify the cabin. And additionally, those in for a lifetime or more and will have their voices heard as our senior community members. They will have a vote as we build out additional itinerary, continents and ports to visit, cosmetic changes to the ship, and be treated as investors of the residential cruise ship we journey on. So this sounds very much like the founders on Villa Vie, though probably more transparent. At least you'd know who they were. They're the people that, you know, bought in for 15 years or, you know, or more on the ship. Then there's 10 years, which is long haul, and you can modify and decorate your cabin, and you'll have a vote on additional itinerary. And then there's 5 years, which is kind of as short timers, and they can decorate and modify their cabins. Full owners of residences can legally transfer or sell their residence during any time and for the remaining duration of the ownership. So same as Villa Vie. And then there's some part-time options. So there's part-timing with friends or family. So people who have friends and family that like to purchase a cabin together and share it, you get a dedicated cabin assigned to you, and you know, you can work out how you're going to share that out. So a bit like a timeshare, where you know the people. So, and these part-time with friends and family can legally transfer or sell their residence at any time and for the duration of the cruise. So then there's half fractional ownership. So that's split between 2 different parties who agree to how to split up the usage of the residence. And there's quarter fractional, which is between 4 different parties. And they both have a monthly fee of $100 added for maintenance for this split. And you can also do this fractional ownership in different parts. So if you had two families, one family wanted it just a quarter of the year and the other 3/4 of the year, you could do that. Then there's part-time solo. So for those who are wanting part-time occupancy of a residence and do not have others to purchase the whole residence together with, so it's a unit of non-related occupants. So you don't get a dedicated cabin, and so you can't make any changes to the cabin. You'll be assigned the cabin, and the monthly fees will be collected, proportionally from each party. Looking at how they compare to Villa Vie Odyssey in particular, as that's the only ship that Villa Vie has at the moment. So I think one of the interesting differences is the premium offerings. They seem to be offering more, but obviously you don't know what is actually going to happen. Villa Vie promised a lot of things in the beginning and realised that they were not going to be financially or physically feasible to do. So yeah, these are things like the shared butler service, a dedicated butler service. I would imagine you could probably do that on Villa Vie if you were just happy to pay for another staff member. You could probably have a dedicated butler service. And the private dining areas, so that can be reserved out, that would be a nice one. So let's look at the costs. So we've got interior residences, so they range from 100,000 for 5 years up to 140,000 for 15 years. I'll just put them up here so I don't have to go through all of that. Plus you've got monthly fees in the $4,000 to $5,000 range. And residences with a view, that they call them. So I'm showing this ocean view. I'll put this one up. So they range from 125 to 170 depending on the length of time, plus the monthly fee of 5,000 to 7,000. A veranda residence, so a balcony cabin, is from like 235 up to 350,000, plus the monthly, which ranges from like 7,000 to 9,000. Interesting, there's no porthole cabin mentioned, and I do wonder how they will price these if they get a ship with this type of cabin, or maybe they're just planning to use in the staff cabins, or like they do on some cruise lines, it would be just priced as an interior, maybe with like a slightly higher buy-in or monthly price than that. And I'm just going to do some comparisons to Villa Vie. I'll put this table up here. This is per month based on single occupancy for a 15-year duration. So for an interior, Villa Vie is much cheaper. So Fabled Voyages comes in just over 5,000 and Villa Vie 3,700. And for an ocean view, Villa Vie is also cheaper at 4,833, up to Fabled Voyages is 6,228. And for a balcony, we've got Villa Vie at 7,944 and Fabled Voyages just over 9,000. So looking at a 5-year option, they do come out a lot more similar in price, with a porthole cabin on Fabled Voyages 6,578 and on Villa Vie 6,500. So the shorter time length is similar, but the longer, staying on for 15 years, which is something you just really have to weigh up yourself. I mean, whether, your health, your finances, your interest in it, family options, whether you will want to spend more time on land, how long you want to do this for. So 15 years is quite a long time to dedicate to this kind of lifestyle. So what do you think of Fabled Voyages? Do you think they will even sail? I mean, I think that's my biggest worry, is whether they will actually sail, and whether you get your deposit back if they don't sell, or even the 90% of it. I think at this point putting the money down is too big a risk. I wouldn't do it personally, but let me know if you would do it, and what you think of Fabled Voyages. The pros and cons, like I think it sounds like a good option, but it doesn't sound that different to Villa Vie. Like there will be a younger ship probably, so the lifetime of the ship would be maybe less of a worry, and the ship might be in better condition when they started, because they're looking at ships that are currently sailing now. And one of the problems with Villa Vie, and why it took them a year to actually start sailing from when they purchased it, was that it had been laid up in wet dock for a long period of time from COVID and onwards. So obviously that is a benefit to it. The larger ship has its pros and cons. Like as I say, it is the sort of ship size that I do quite like, but the smaller ships like the Odyssey, you know, can get into more ports, and you know, do you need that much space on a residential cruise ship? But then obviously if they can sell it out and the number of passengers, obviously then there is more money overall in the ship to keep the whole thing going. So I think that could be a positive. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and my thoughts on Fabled Voyages. Please let me know in the comments below what you think of it. And also please like and subscribe. So it really does help my channel grow. So if there's anything you'd like me to talk about, let me know also in the comments below and I'll make a video on it. I made this video because someone asked me to look into Fabled Voyages and it was something I was interested in, so I did that. So yeah, let me know if there's anything you'd like to see, and until next time, bye!